this is an experience that so many women can relate to. They're budgeting in the household. They're making sure the groceries are being paid for. They're making sure the kids' school is being paid for. As women, we take care of finances, but are we the ones in control of the finances? Are we the ones that are, this is what my whole world is about now, right? Making the investment decisions. I run our portfolio for our household now. I didn't know any of that.
Welcome to the Unreasonable Life podcast. This is where we get to redefine what's possible and inspire you to create a life that is extraordinary. I'm Dr. Nona Javid, an entrepreneur, an author, quantum leap teacher, and founder of Elevate Club and 1 Week a Month Mastermind, a professional life liver, and your guide to living boldly. Every episode, I'll sit down with an incredible guest who has shattered limits, pursued their biggest dreams, and created lives that others have called impossible. Together, we're going to uncover the stories, the strategies, the lessons that will empower you to live your version of that unreasonable dream life. Because the life that you want isn't unreachable. It just happens to be unreasonable. Let's dive in.
Lisa.
Hi.
Here's the thing. You work with people around money, right? Everything and anything that has to do with money. And it sounds like mainly women. Yeah. And the way that I see it, and we've had this conversation before, but there's the belief systems around money is just so deep, right? Like I have my own belief systems that I've picked up from my parents, that I picked up from my family members, that they picked up from their parents. It's ancestral. It's consciousness of the world, the media, the corporate, the structure of our culture, really globally is very limiting when it comes to money. It's a
cesspool of opinions.
That's the best way to put it.
And it's even hearing you describe it is very overwhelming. I can feel my nervous system reacting to that. Turn on the news and there's one money expert after the other giving you contrary advice. Do it this way. No, this person sucks. Don't do it that way. And if you don't know for yourself what you want first, let's get clear about that.
Okay. So what's the first step?
The first step, so someone asked me on a podcast episode, I don't remember when it was, is when did you realize that you had a problem? Yeah. Or when did you realize you needed help? And I said, to be honest with you, I had no idea that I needed help. I had no idea I had a problem.
Yeah.
But what I did know is that I wasn't happy in the life that I was in. That was a red flag for me.
And okay, so you'll have to break that down because how did it have to do with money?
Well, in my life in particular, so where do we start? Well, I start with where I started.
Yeah.
I am a blue collar girl. I did not grow up around money. I lived on a dirt road, barefoot, kind of a hillbilly kind of experience in Las Vegas. If you know Las Vegas, it's Vegas, but then you get outside of Vegas and it's horse country.
Yeah.
Anyway, my dad's a blue collared guy. He's a stagehand. And the conversations in my household were about being grateful for what we had.
Okay.
Be grateful for what you have. It's not more than enough. It's never more than enough, but you always have enough, which is true. I always had enough. And as a young woman, I was imprinted into a path. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. My grandma, for the most part, was a stay-at-home mom. The women around me were not career women. Were not ambitious women. So every time little Lisa tried to step outside the box and follow her path and take a risk, my wrist was slapped. Get back into line. Get back in the box. Stay safe, get a good job, get a 401k, get married, have kids. And at some point you and your husband will fall in love with each other, but you don't have to marry for love. I mean, it would be great if you did, but as soon as I started to vocalize where I was at in my 20s, I wasn't happy. I didn't love the man that I was with anymore. I was really struggling in my marriage. My mom would come back to me and say, you'll work through it.
This is you in your 20s.
In my 20s.
Okay.
You'll work through it. Why did she tell me that?
That's what she experienced.
That's what she endured. The money mindset that I inherited is that you work hard, you don't rock the boat, you get a pension, and you retire. And every person I watched age in my life sat in a chair the rest of their life after they retired.
Right.
And I woke up one day and I was like, no way am I going to do that. No way am I going to do that. But also I was in denial. I was not in a responsible mindset about how I got where I was. It was my husband's, now ex-husband's fault. It was everybody else's fault but mine.
At the time you felt that way. Yeah.
How it ties into finances is I left my first career to stay home with my son. Why did I do that? Because that's what women did in my family. And my life just started to go downhill from there. I wasn't bringing income. I didn't have health insurance. All these conversations started picking up in my head about what a loser I was and how unsuccessful I was because I wasn't creating from a place of authenticity anymore. Or maybe ever, right?
Yeah.
With money, where it happened is my ex-husband started to drink heavily, lost his job, lost his next job. My nice, cushy life started to dissipate before my eyes. And it took me going into a personal development seminar, taking a long, hard look in the mirror and deciding that if anything was going to change, I was going to be the one to change it. So I didn't know I had a problem until financially I was about to lose everything.
So really money became the pivotal moment, or lack thereof became the pivotal moment for you to kind of have a recognition, like things are not working out. I got to do something different.
And it's my feedback this time. Not my husband's feedback, not my parents' feedback. It's my feedback this time.
I get to decide.
It's on me to create more money. It's on me to follow my dreams. If it's to be, it's up to me.
Yeah.
And that's where the mindset work started. Now, the mind-body connection is where things got really good for me.
Okay, wait, that's going to get juicy, but hold, I have questions on the, hold that thought, because I want to talk about all the mind body connection. Okay. But before we get there, how old were you when you got divorced?
37.
Do you, I wonder if this is because you and I touched on my story a bit, but when I got to a point where I made the decision I was going to get divorced, I don't know if I ever told you this. I made the decision. I sat with my husband. We didn't make the decision. I was, the driving force. Like I really was just kind of done. I remember telling him, if I say yes one more time, like I'll give it another try. I am in full betrayal. I've been in full betrayal, but this is no more. And, but we made the decision. We came to some kind of peace. I think at that point we'd already gone through mediation and perhaps I'd already filed. And then him and I sat with my dad, was the first person we were going to say, like, we're filing for divorce. And my dad was so disappointed. And there was no question of, how are you feeling? Like, maybe he was beating me. He wasn't. Like, but maybe he was cheating on me, beating me. Like, there was nothing like that. And this is to say, I mean, my dad loves me. I love my dad. I adore him. He's an amazing, incredible man. But the strength of culture, the heaviness of culture of like, if you get divorced or if you don't follow the checkbox of things, the get married, the job, the whatever. And I didn't talk to my dad for a few days, which is a big deal for me. I'm really close to my dad. And then eventually he came around and was like, and this part of the story gets juicy. He came around and he was like, okay, I get it. Like, cause he was like, I'm worried about the kids. And I think part of it was like, oh, there's divorce in the family. Cause he'd been married to my mom for, at the time, probably 40 years or so.
And what does that say about them?
What would that mean to them? Yeah. How would that define their relationship? Yep. Then, Lisa, about a couple years later, my dad made the decision to get divorced from my mom because they had an unhealthy relationship. So I know, wild, right?
That's wild.
But it's like when you step into, and this wasn't even what I was going to ask you, but to wrap up the story, when you step into, like you did, you're like, no more, I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to follow. And it's on me to make the things happen. When you do that, I feel like the ripple effect and the inspiration that comes to other people, even when you don't recognize it. I mean, I know, the impact that you have on your clients, on people that were just at your retreat that you're at. But in general, the consciousness, there's a shift in the consciousness when you step into your truth. Yes. What I was going to tell you or ask you is, do you notice a lot of women get to a point around late 30s where they have a similar understanding or a similar moment in life where they make those decisions?
Yes, because they've tolerated and endured what they can do, and their nervous system comes online and it can't take it anymore. They've met their own threshold and tolerance for the bullshit.
Yep.
20s, we can do it. We can lie to ourselves. We can numb out. We can work. We're climbing the ladder in our 20s. You went to medical school. I went to college and then climbed the ranks where I was working. We were climbing in our 20s. And my entire system shut down on me to the point that I didn't even want to get out of bed anymore. I was drinking heavily to cope. I was showing up successfully outside on the outside. I had to. I was a financial advisor. So my life is falling apart. I decided to jump into financial advising. Now I know that's what I needed to know to learn. We all come here to learn our lessons. And I'm in this multi-million-dollar firm doing the thing, playing the part, playing the role of success. And behind the scenes, I'm falling apart and I feel like a fraud. And I had to learn what I needed to learn. I knew nothing about money going into that role. Yeah. I chose it intentionally. I wanted to learn about money because as a woman, I knew nothing. Yeah. Other than I was the one that ran the finances. This is an experience that so many women can relate to. They're budgeting in the household. They're making sure the groceries are being paid for. They're making sure the kids' school is being paid for. As women, we take care of finances. But are we the ones in control of the finances? Are we the ones that are, this is what my whole world is about now, right? Making the investment decisions. I run our portfolio for our household now. I didn't know any of that. So being a financial advisor was a part of the journey, but I got in the industry and I was like, well, this isn't where I want to be either. I don't remember what the question was, but overall,
in that age range, it relates.
Yeah. 30s, you wake up in your 30s, and more women are waking up saying, this is not how I have to live. This is not what I need to do. Gen Z is going to change the game completely because millennials have raised Gen Z, right? But older millennials, Gen X women, we didn't realize until much later in life that we had those possibilities, I think.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. Okay. So mind-body connection. Yeah. I'm dying to hear.
Okay. So I'm in this retreat. I was driving up here today thinking, wow, this is really fun that I've been in this environment, immersed in this environment. Now I have a break. I'm coming to speak with you. But where transformation really happens is when you get the framework of mindset, you get the framework of manifestation, you get how you can think, create feelings, and thoughts become things. And a lot of our mindset, a lot of our experiences get trapped in our body. And for me, it was the combination of being able to release emotion and let it go completely that I was able to experience myself in a new way and reframework the way I thought about life altogether.
Okay. Are you talking like a somatic? Okay. Yeah.
Somatic work. And NLP does that absolutely. Too. We teach people how to release emotions, how to release beliefs. That stuff is legit.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's legit. Yeah. And when you can do that and personal development seminars, not all of them do the body work. Right. They just do the mindset, which you could work on your mindset for so long. And at some point you got to heal your body too. Yeah. You got to bring your body online.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the way that I teach it is like engaging the limbic system, right? Because all of your emotions are, they have to work together with the mindset piece of it. So the mindset piece of it being the left brain. So you're telling yourself or you're telling your body and you're doing all these affirmations or maybe even taking a bunch of actions. But if you're underneath it all, you're feeling the anxiety or the stress, or you haven't worked through the emotions that are related to money or really anything else, then you can say all those affirmations with this sense of anxiety underneath it all, and you're not separating those two. So, and here's the thing, I'm sure in your circles too, I have people in my masterminds who are, multi 7 figures, higher 7 figures, and they have the same level of anxiety as when they had it when they were five figures broke. Yeah. And so to me, it's a clear indication of clearing your energetics and the importance of that, as well as taking the actions, like having the framework to put into place too.
What's the purpose of having so much money if you can't enjoy it?
Yeah. So I think in the process, if you don't clear those things, you're going to end up just
miserable.
You'll
have all the things, you'll have the house, you'll have the car, you'll have the significant other, and you'll wake up every day numbing,
not enough.
Coping. It's not enough. I see so many wealthy people, had this conversation with plenty of wealthy people in my office with wealthy people who are miserable.
Oh yeah. You worked with those people.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is, I just want to be very clear to people listening. This is not to make wealthy people like, it's not a correlation. If you're wealthy, you're unhappy. We also know plenty of wealthy individuals that are absolutely happy, grateful, contributing, and having a big impact in the world too. So this is not, I don't want to add to the consciousness of the world that if you have money, you're going to be unhappy.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely not. I just think that there's a stigma out there or a belief out there that if you have money, you will be, and that solves things.
True.
But where my world comes into fold is, where does the journey begin? It begins with you deconstructing beliefs that aren't serving you. It begins with you creating a vision that you love for your life. And it must be yours, not defined by someone else, which requires work to figure out, is this my vision, or is this someone else's life that I'm living as defined by media? What does success mean to me?
Yeah.
And then go for it.
Yeah.
Climb for, or it doesn't even have to be a climb, allow it in for what you want it to be.
Yeah.
And that's when my life got really fun.
That's awesome. So so then what happened? At 37, you got divorced. Did you have children then?
I did. I do. I have a 17-year-old biological son.
Okay.
He was 9
at the time.
He was 9 at the time. I stayed for him.
Sure.
More than him, what I stayed for was avoiding the discomfort and the pain.
Okay. Thank you for being honest too, because there's the conversation of staying for the kids in an unhealthy relationship. I've definitely used that before. But if we're kind of contemplating, we all know there is more to it than just staying for the kids.
Yeah, the payoff was that I could avoid the pain that was going to come with the divorce.
That's right.
I could continue to blame my ex-husband for his problems, not take responsibility. And it was just too loud. It was too loud for me. So I took responsibility for the role that I played in the marriage, the role that I had played in my life, for me taking and draining my 401k. So I know you like to talk about unconventional ways to reach success. I was just like, I don't know what I'm doing here, but my personality is to take, I love to take risk. I do it naturally. So I said, I'm out. I will figure this out.
Yeah.
I know I will. I trust myself enough. I believe in myself enough. Let me just go.
Yeah.
And the pain that I was avoiding, which I unconsciously knew that I was avoiding, but wasn't totally consciously aware of it at the time, was that my family did not support my decision.
Sure.
They did not show up for me. They did not support me. It was a fight for my life, for myself, a reorganization of priorities, a reorganization of people, a reorganization of money. And then in the same year, I wrote my book, started my business, and took off. Everything took off from there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So was there a moment of time when you were like, because you and I had a conversation just earlier about how you end up working with women and they have to recognize what they've been doing hasn't been working. Does that happen? Did it happen for you in a moment, or did it happen in a series of events?
So April 2014, I enrolled in a personal development seminar. I don't know if anybody's familiar with Lewis Howes. He's trained with Chris Lee, so the same personal development seminars. Tony Robbins-esque, but not exactly.
Okay.
LifeSpring. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Okay, I enrolled my husband into the program.
Ex-husband?
Because my ex-husband, I enrolled my ex-husband into the program because he was the one that needed to be fixed.
Yeah.
So that was in April of 2014. And then I agreed. He's like, well, if I'm going to do it, you're going to do it. I said, okay, fair enough. So July 2014, I walked into those doors and I took my life on. So it was through the process of that first and second weekend where I was actually, I gave myself permission to go all in and do the work. And it was in the context that they design in those trainings that you can be a victim to your life or you can be responsible for your life. Yeah. And that's when it came on. Wow. That's when the switch flipped for me.
Yeah, that's what you needed. That's okay. What I needed. You want to hear something funny?
I do.
Okay. Well, I guess it's not that funny. But here's the thing. You and I have had a lot of parallels.
Yeah.
A lot of parallels. I was into Tony Robbins. Like, he was definitely a gateway drug for me into like the whole personal development stuff. Like, I'm kind of a little bit over him, if you would. Yeah. And I've tapped into so many other beautiful resources. Yeah. But he was pretty influential in my life. So I started going to Tony Robbins since maybe 2008 and like kind of helped configure my business. I was a platinum partner with Tony Robbins, traveled the world, this and that and the other. That's not the point. The point is, I was pushing my husband at the time to go to his events, ex-husband.
Because he's the one that's broken.
He was the one that is broken. And he might still be, no, okay, just kidding. But I was trying to get him to the seminars. So actually, at the time, to be completely honest, and I'm reflecting back truly, I just wanted somebody to go to these things with me. Like, I wanted to go. He could take his own journey. I wasn't really like pushing for him to do anything outside of maybe start to provide a bit for our family, whatever the case might be. But for me, it was more important to have a connected partnership. It was something I thought marriage was about that I didn't really get in my first marriage, where I wanted to experience like, let's go to these events together, like someone with the same core values so that you can get better and I can get better on my own path and we can parallel move forward together. It's something that I'm so grateful I get to have with my partner now, with my fiance. But at the time, I did kind of force him to go to the first one. He did, whatever, didn't walk on fire on UPW. And then the next one is called Date with Destiny. I don't know if you've gone, but it's about relationships. Okay. And I definitely forced him to go to that one also. I mean, by force, I mean like I was like, we're going here. Yeah. And, I thought it was going to make things better for our relationship. And, immediately after, when I would reference that event to say my best friend, I would be like, that was definitely Date with Divorce, because I went in there thinking things were going to get better. And I went in there fully just, he's going to get better. I'm going to get better. We're going to come together. I think we fought that trip, the entire trip. And then once I was done with that one, I pretty much it took some time for me to kind of create the certainty around myself and my own self-worth to get out of it. But that's kind of what happens.
It's wild.
That's wild. Yeah.
Similar journeys. And here you are, all the while a doctor, educated, capable, still in the same conversation. How does that happen? Right? How does that happen? Imprinting, stories, beliefs, how women are raised in different cultures, and we have to dismantle all of it. All of it. Yeah. It's time. So that's what my book is about, is where would a woman who's ready to dismantle those beliefs and those parts of her to discover something new for herself. And when I was we worked with the same media team. Anyway, when we were talking about, they were like, well, what do you do, Lisa? Like, how can we help you bring your magic to the forefront? And the very first thing I said was, I help people stop budgeting. And they were like, well, that's it. And my face turned white and I almost threw up, because being in the money industry for the last 10 years, I knew what I'd be jumping into in that conversation, because that is the construct that is taught over and over and over again. And for me to tell someone stop budgeting could be heard as be irresponsible.
Right.
Don't look at your money. Don't take action. And that's absolutely the opposite of what I'm communicating.
Yeah, I love that. It's like you're going against the grain, and it's scary to do that, but it's your mission.
Yeah. And so many women have come forward like, oh my God, I hate budgeting. Every successful person I talk to on my podcast are like, yeah, I don't budget either. I hate budgeting. I'm like, oh my gosh, how is no one talking about this?
Because we're scared. Like, I feel like if I tell my people, I mean, the financial decisions I have been making are so wrong by the standard.
Absolutely.
But I wouldn't be in this house. I wouldn't have the life that I have. I wouldn't be if I listened to my financial advisor. Yep. Like, let's be honest. I will rarely call my accountant and be like, this is the decision. Usually I call him afterwards.
That's right.
Yeah. So
help me clean this up. That's right.
So, I mean, it's honestly the consciousness of the world, like you're in the business of money, right? Yep. You're teaching people make powerful decisions with their money that are aligned with where they're headed. Me, if I was your client, I'd be kind of embarrassed to say I don't budget, but not because I think it's the wrong thing to do or I have any shame around it myself, but because of what the world is telling us, this is what you should be doing. So if you're going against the grain, then the conversation doesn't exist.
Exactly.
So
there you go.
I love that.
Thank you. Yeah.
Can we talk about not budgeting?
Let's do it.
Okay.
What do you want to know about it? Or just
so when you tell people not budget, break that down. Okay. What are we talking about?
It all clicked. I just did a podcast episode about this, and I went through the history of women with money in America over the last 100 years. We just celebrated Women's History Month, so I was in a conversation of like, what would be a powerful conversation to have? And so I started to dial back where women were 100 years ago in America. And American women financially are the most progressive, and when it comes to equality, women are climbing faster with men when it comes to financial equity, not equality, equity. More women in America have more money compared to men than just about any other country on the planet. Okay. So, and I live in America. So looking back for women, and I started with my grandmother and my great-grandmother. My great-grandmother immigrated here from Italy.
Okay.
At that point in time, in the late 1800s, early 1900s, women didn't have the right to own their own money.
Okay.
Women didn't have the right to own credit.
To own, when you say they didn't have the right to own their own money, like if they worked,
their own bank account.
They didn't have a bank account. You couldn't have a bank account as a woman?
I don't think so.
Like in our grandparents' age.
Yeah, women didn't work back then.
Okay.
Women didn't work to earn money back then. There was the top 5% of America at the time, wealthy people at the time, wealthy women had different access to money than the rest of the women. And that's white women. Women of color didn't have rights till much later in the history of time. But thinking about my great grandmother who immigrated here from Italy, this is on my mom's side, was it even her choice to come here in the first place? Okay. If those rights didn't exist, how could she have made decisions for herself if she couldn't even own property or own her own money? Okay. Right? Yeah. So I'm thinking about, okay, well then she had my grandmother and I'm in my grandmother because my mom's in my grandmother. This is the lineage of the women in my life. And think about yours as I'm going through this. My grandmother still didn't have the right. Okay. It wasn't until my grandfather, that men went off to war, World War II, World War I, World War II, men went off to war, women had to work, but then they returned right back to home. Okay. So the freedoms that we enjoy today as women did not exist 2 generations ago. True, yes. It wasn't until the 70s that women could even own credit without a man's signature. Yes. We have a learning curve financially. Budgeting, this is where it clicked for me. Budgeting is a male construct. Because men own the money.
Oh, Lisa.
Do you see where I'm going with this?
Yes. My gosh, that's wild.
Men own the money.
That makes sense. If you're in a household, oh my God. If you're in a household, the man is working, you don't have any money, then the budgeting the man obviously would want you to budget. And to be fair, if I was working and my man wasn't working and if the roles were for anybody, any human, you'd be like, yeah, we need a budget. Yeah. And the budgeting would fall on the person, in this case, the woman.
The woman. the woman. Okay.
Okay.
This goes back to before money was even a thing. If we really think about the history of women over the course of time, the men went and hunted, they brought the food home, the woman had to make good use of it.
We had to make sure we have enough. So we budgeted the berries and the freaking meat. That's wild.
Think about it.
Yeah.
So it was constructed in a male paradigm and therefore controlled. And women, we had to be good stewards of what we had in the household, because if we were given, literally given, if we were given $100 for groceries, we didn't have access to more. We didn't have access to credit. That was what we had. And having been in these conversations with partners and women and divorces and all the things, we're still learning to use our voice and advocate for ourselves financially, because asking for money could have been met by resistance, abuse, control, manipulation.
It sounds like the corporate world right now.
It does, doesn't it? It
Wow.
does. Use what you have. You're not entitled to more. That is where budgeting started. And as women, if we're going to turn the corner for our lives financially, we have to deconstruct these paradigms.
Okay.
Stop it. What if you didn't have to budget?
Okay.
What would life look like for you if you didn't?
Okay.
What would be possible for you if you could go out and make more money? Because if you have to budget because you don't have enough money, what's going on in your mindset? How can you create more? How can you not rely on someone anymore to provide in that way? Because men and women were in this interesting negotiation in time as women are making more money. But we can figure this out too.
Yeah, of course.
So that's where stop budgeting comes into play.
Okay.
Let's just take it off the table altogether.
Do you typically work with women who make their own money, or do you also work with women who don't make their own money and they're looking for advice one way or another? Who's the person?
It's typically the woman who approaches me for support. And yes, I work with high income earning women who are ready to break the shackles of their own mindset and the constructs of their marriage.
Okay, I'm just asking.
Yeah.
It makes sense and I know the answer, but I'm only asking because that's not, I don't budget.
Yeah. Yeah.
So trying to understand this crowd. Women who make a lot of money, are they still budgeting?
They think
We're
they
still
have
carrying.
to.
Oh, they think they have
They
to.
think they have to. And because they don't, there's shame and guilt around the fact that they don't.
Got it.
Because if we're being honest, Dave Ramsey has really, he's served a purpose in the industry. But for so long, he's been the predominant voice of money coaching.
Yeah.
And in order to make progress anyway financially, you have to follow these steps. Again, another reason or another opportunity for a woman to make herself wrong about what she's doing because she can't do it right. Or I've had so many people come to me hundreds of people who have come to me who have tried the Dave Ramsey method, and for a certain amount of time, maybe it worked, and then they fell off the wagon and went back to old habits, and they're in a mess again, or they've seen another bankruptcy and they just can't, they're ready for a new, fresh approach. Like this approach didn't work.
Yeah. I feel like with him, you're not really addressing the root cause of the condition. You're just kind of patch care is what we call it as chiropractors. You put a Band-Aid on it and you try to not look at it. Right. You have a technique, obviously you're trying to save and you're trying to put the things in the right places. But, and I'm not super familiar with his work. I do know the big concept, the basic concepts of it. What I know to be factual about his work is the shame and guilt that's associated with not doing this, not putting the money away. I mean, and then what happens to enjoying life? What happens to, I just heard a story about somebody who did Dave Ramsey's program. And she was like, yeah, we paid off some debt and we were newly married. And in those first couple of years of being newly married, we enrolled in the program and we weren't eating out. We weren't going on any vacation. We skipped our honeymoon. And I'm like, you're actually this is the part of, what about life also?
What's the purpose of depriving yourself?
What's the purpose of depriving yourself?
And I'm in a conversation with credit cards too at a certain point for women specifically is if that's what it's going to take for you to start a business, if that's what it's going to take for you to enjoy your child on a Friday night, and you understand how to use it and the consequences of that, those are your learnings. Those are your learnings. Go for it. Learn from it.
Totally.
And I hate the thought. I just got off the phone with somebody last week, and she said, I have a horrible spending problem.
Okay.
And as soon as you say that, as soon as those words come out of your mouth, you're judging yourself, you're shaming yourself. Where can you heal from there?
Yeah. Where's
And
the compassion?
When did you hear that? When did you decide that? Who are you hearing it from?
Okay. So you guys take notes. Stop budgeting.
Stop budgeting. Stop it. There's so many other ways to manage cash flow. And that's really what it comes down to. Manage your cash flow, be abundant. The more abundant you are, the more that will come into your sphere. I've seen miracles happen when it comes to money and individuals who decide for themselves, okay, today's the day I'm going to make a change, and something magical comes to them. And you can't be attached.
Yeah.
You can't be attached. So we can go into all of that. I know that's what you teach also. Stop budgeting.
Yeah. No, let's get into the energetics of money.
Okay.
You want to do that?
Yeah, that's your jam. But we can, yes.
But I wonder what you
language.
think from your no, it's really all the same, because like what you are saying, what is energetics is like the emotions that people have around a certain activity, right? So if there's guilt and shame, I call that energetics, which also includes the mindset, the limitations, the thought processes that they have. And this applies to everyone across the board on any topic. So for example, around money, one of my favorite things that I've had this big realization that has completely changed my life, the trajectory of my businesses and everything else. So I wonder how you see this within your clients. I talk about the different kinds of energetics that you can tap into, right? When it comes to money. One of them is just enough money. Like you could probably think of all the people in your life, or if you're listening, you might be that person where you're like, yeah, no matter how much money I make, I have just enough money. So when you were talking about, this is why I wanted to bring this up. When you were talking about women, high-level individuals who are kind of carrying the whole budgeting and a list of probably other limiting patterns, right, that are passed on to us. Well, to me, when I meet them, typically they're in the energy of just enough. Like they have enough, they make it. They're either giving it away, spending it on the thing, or the expense comes up one way or another. Even with the promotion or with the business growing, you're still just enough. Yeah. You know?
I do.
So then there's that. Then I talk about the excess money. Okay. Excess money is and this has been my transition from just enough, no matter at different stages of my financial success. No matter what, there's always just enough. That I've covered. Then there is excess money, and this is where I'm learning to tap into, which is not just the bills are paid, not just the vacation is paid, like the stuff that you like to do, the way that you like to live your life, right? All of those things. So just enough is done. The vacation, the cars, the house, the material things, the non-material things. You also wrote a check for a nonprofit, all of that done. And then you have excess money. Okay. And then, so those two kind of go together. And then I talk about, and I have a question about that one for you. So then I talk about sexy money, which, to give credit to my friend Dan Mangana, he's the one that kind of introduced me to the concept. Okay. Yeah, and I loved it. And I have to mention his name every time I say it. But sexy money is what you just described. You're like, when women make a decision to go, I'm it. Yeah. Or I'm going to do things differently, or they invest in themselves. Yeah. I bet you see it in your program. When they sign up for your program, they're like, I don't know what happened, but a check came in.
Yes.
I don't know what happened. A refund. I don't know what happened. I got
fell out of the sky.
Fell out of the sky.
Someone died. Someone died. I got a check. I don't know. Yeah.
Totally. It happens all the time. And I call that sexy money because you're in the energy of fun and worthiness.
Yeah.
And so, you know, then that's why you're investing money in yourself. And then the universe is like, here you go. Here's somebody died.
I love it. I love it. That's feminine. That's receptive. That's openness. That's connected. That's sourcing. That's power. And that in my book, I talk about it as we live in our own glass ceilings, and that those glass ceilings came from somewhere, and we have to shatter that glass ceiling in order to continue to move forward. It doesn't necessarily have to be up, because I don't love the visual that you have to climb up to be successful.
Yeah,
but that you can elevate and energetically create more presence, more time, more freedom.
Yeah.
It's a way of being for me more than it is like a climb.
Yeah, totally. So when it comes down to where do you see in your work, where do you see this concept of excess money or the concept of sexy money or the just enough? How does the mindset or the women you work with, how does this show up? What's your...
That's a great question. I like to think of client stories when I think of that. I can't think of anything else off the top of my head. I actually really like the concept of sexy money, so I might steal that and definitely credit you and Dan on that. Is that everybody wants to, I think women do inherently want to feel sexy and they want to feel enough. Where my world is probably... Where it's a compliment to yours is that I spend energy on women come to me who want to be abundant because abundance has been overused in the money industry and it's been sold to them, quite honestly.
Got it.
Living abundantly. And there's programs about it and there's people that teach on it. But the truth is that the opposite of scarcity is not abundance. The opposite of scarcity is enough. So I'm working with them energetically to get them to a place of wholeness and enoughness.
Okay.
Because when you operate from a place of wholeness and enoughness, and you live in that environment, you're able to expand your capacity to receive more. And that's what you're talking about, the sexiness.
Yeah.
Because the money will come in, you'll get spurts of it. If you don't calibrate and build a solid foundation in enoughness first and see yourself as whole and see yourself as enough, you could have a big windfall and then it's gone.
That's right. Yeah.
Then it's gone. And then you don't know what to do with it. And then what do? Beat yourself up, make yourself wrong, shame yourself when the inheritance comes. I have one person in particular that I'm thinking of with this is that she's not enough and money keeps coming her way and then it's gone just as quickly.
Right.
So first build the capacity for enough, look in the mirror and learn and do the work in enoughness. And then when more comes in, have a place for it, have a thought for it, know how you'll use it. And I know for you, that's how your life developed, was that vision. And that's what I'm actively working on as well. So that when more comes in, I know exactly where it's going.
Yeah.
Which then just keeps the fun going and the rhythm going and all of that. Now, there are hard days. I'm still human.
Yeah, of
perfect.
course.
Yeah. Building a business is a whole nother beast. Building a brand is a whole nother beast, and it's not cheap. So I'm in the flux some days.
Yeah, of course.
And that's honest too.
Yeah. Very good. So I'm curious, how does this, you have 2 boys.
I do.
Okay. And how old are your boys?
So I have my 17-year-old biological son and my 14-year-old I adopted.
Okay. Yeah. And I guess more specifically to the 14-year-old, because he's young enough, but maybe even what you have, how do you talk to them about money? That could be really useful for someone who's listening.
I am in a responsible conversation with both of my children. So having done this work and believing so strongly in the power of responsibility, my teenagers get to make choices and understand the consequences of their choices.
Okay.
I don't live in scarcity when it comes to my kids. Okay. There will be enough for them when they decide that they're ready for more financially. I save for them responsibly. My husband and I save for them. I got remarried. I know you're engaged. We save for them for the long term, for college, those kinds of things. But when it comes to everyday decisions financially, they get to make decisions and not be shamed and guilted for them.
Okay.
They both get to learn how to earn and attract money.
Okay.
Even when they don't like it. Both boys are very different.
Okay.
My oldest is a go-getter like me. He makes stuff happen and he finds motivation in creation.
Okay.
He's motivated to work because he sees how it comes back and how he gets to use it. And then when things creep in, it's a learning opportunity. What I work on consciously with my boys is not making them wrong for the decisions that they're making, not bringing my old paradigms into their consciousness.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're not budgeting.
No. No. My oldest has a really healthy relationship with spending, and we'll see. He's 17. We'll see how that works out. But he did save money for his truck. He does invest into his truck.
Okay.
He's 17. What else does he have to use his money for, right? I'm not putting that pressure on him that he has to build a multi-million-dollar life at the age of 17. He'll figure it out. I know he will. Yeah. And then my 14-year-old is still trying to figure out what that means. Yeah. But he gets to make choices. If he wants something, okay, well, do you have the money for it? How are you going to pay for it? How are you going to be creative and resourceful to create it? Yeah. He doesn't like it very much. Yeah. And he gets to learn. He gets to learn. That's how I'm doing it. How are you doing it?
I mean, I think one of the biggest things I've learned in the process, I like what you were saying too. And I definitely, I mean, my kids are not I'm not giving them money for anything, but they obviously ask for things. And one thing that was really valuable for me to learn was to reframe what work is. So I remember when I was a kid, my parents, they both of them, so kind of a different dynamic because we were middle class, very average. And at least when we lived in Iran. And then, I moved here when I was 16. But when we lived over there, both my parents worked. So I'd always seen my mom working.
You had mentioned that, I think, on my podcast episode, that women had the same rights as men until the revolution.
Really? Yeah, exactly. And then, so I'd watch my mom. My mom's is one of 7 sisters. So I'd watched almost, every single one of them had a degree, was working. And my grandma, I can't say the same. She was a stay-at-home mom, but she was like a very active, I don't know, but she was a stay-at-home mom. But all of my aunts, which I would relate to, they were all educated. They all worked, and they made their own money. They even helped their mom and their parents. So while I had that dynamic, it was still instilled in me to a fault of like, you have to work so hard, and then also look at how hard we are working. And then of course, then you come here and during the immigration process, we moved here for you for a better life. So there's a lot. And then look at how much harder life is now and how much harder we are working now.
Did that manifest a lot of guilt for you?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Like looking at the time, no, because it was at the time it looked good. Like, I'm going to work really hard because my parents worked really hard. Yeah. I'm going to go to Berkeley. I'm going to get good grades. I'm going to get a good job. That's how it sort of unfolded. But now looking back as a grown, mature adult, looking back, it's like, wow, everything I had built in the first part of my life, right before I burnt out, which I shared with you the story, was based on guilt and shame of having to work really hard and feeling guilty if you asked for more too. Yeah. Like, you should be grateful for what you have, which is why I didn't get divorced for 10 years of marriage, because I should have just been grateful for a good man that I had. He didn't cheat. I settled. So that theme sort of played along until I made the decision to do things differently, both in my business and personal life. So having said all of that, I have learned to not tell my kids I'm working. So I'll never use the word, I mean, it comes up every once in a while, but not in a way of, because right now they're doing their thing. And I said, we're going to be talking and you can't interrupt, and we're going to be on a podcast. But if I'm going to be, so this happens on, maybe weekly basis or so, but if I'm going to be on my computer, I'll say, I'm going to go help this person. I'm going to, so I want them, they don't understand now. Maybe later I would use the word, I'm going to create value. I'm going to add value.
I love that.
But now I just say, I'm going to go help people. I just came back from my retreat in Santa Fe and they didn't go with me. Sometimes I'll take them with me. And I said, I'm going to help people. Once I got back, I showed them pictures and videos, and I said, look at how many people, and I tell them stories that might be relevant. Like, this person said that this is what happened, this is what they understood, and this is how they're going to help their family. Because I want them to understand that money is just an exchange of value. Yeah. So if you're providing value, and the bigger value you provide, the bigger, transformation. Mm-hmm. Exactly. So that's a big thing in my family. Just like you, we don't talk. I never say we can't afford, or that's too expensive, or anything like that. I might say no. Mm-hmm. I say no to my children all the time. I might say no, but my reasoning is never, it's too expensive. Right. You can't afford. I ask them how they can create value, how they can help, how they can,
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that so much. I think that that's such a powerful distinction of your youngest is still in his imprinting years, that it will not resonate in his body. He will not be able to identify it, because what does not exist in you, you cannot see. And so I've been called naive. There's certain ways that I was raised, and certain ways about who I am, and things that I just chose not to opt into as a kid, that I have in some ways gotten into some relationships and situations that were not healthy for me. And I did not see it coming. Why? It didn't exist in me. So if your kids don't see the concept of work in the way that you're not installing it, they'll see life differently.
Yeah, I hope so.
I hope so too. We'll see. We'll find out.
We'll find out. We're going to model it or reverse children and
it's not all of our parents' fault. There's society, there's culture, there's so many ways that we learn, there's teachers, all the things. We can only protect our kids so much.
So much. Yeah. And I also believe in the fact that they have their own journey and their soul is here to experience. So listen, if one of my kids here to experience poverty, I'm all for it, you know, but I will give them the tools to experience life. And I do believe that with these tools, they'll make a bigger impact in the world also.
Yeah.
They can give more.
I'll never forget it. So service has been a part of my core. It's a part of my husband and I. We are definitely generous in our time. We give to people. It's a huge part of our identity. And my oldest, during COVID, it was such a hard time for so many people. Watching what he was watching on social media, he's definitely a servant in heart. And he said, Mom, I figured out what I want to do for my life. I didn't ask him. He just said, this is what I think I want to do. And I said, what is that? He says, I want to be a police officer because I want to serve and protect people.
Oh, wow.
I want to be the difference. Which I could say, I can't take credit for that, but that's a reflection of how I raised him, because we give and we serve. And as a male in this world, he's saying, I want to step up and protect.
Okay. Can we normalize taking credit for when our children do good?
Let's do that.
Let's do that.
Okay. I'm a great mom.
Yeah, you're a great mom. I mean, I think it's a direct reflection. And I think since we're talking about women taking responsibility, like we take responsibility for owning our money stuff, we're going to take responsibility for all the greatness that we're also creating out in the world too.
I'm in for that.
Yeah. Let's do that.
Let's do that.
Okay. So your book is coming out.
Yep.
It's on Amazon right now.
Amazon, Barnes & Noble.
Barnes & Noble.
You can go to my website. Actually, if you go to Instagram, the link is there for you to pre-order it now.
Yeah, that's a good place. I follow you. You have some great tips on Instagram. I think people should follow you. Absolutely. We'll put the link, whatever links you want, the Amazon or whatever, your website, Instagram. We'll put all of that in. And what else? Anything else you want to cover? What should we talk about?
In terms of quantum leap, what I will say is I am very present, and I have healed my unworthy conversation. And that's what it's taken for me to step into this new part of my life. Yeah. And I confront it and face it every single day, and I take new action. And I told you this when you're on my podcast, but when it comes to quantum leaping in my life, the people that I'm attracting in my life are people that I respect, that are smart and doing great work in the world. So to that, I'll say I'm so grateful that I'm here, and I'm so grateful for you. I learn from you. The women that are in my world look up to you, and they're so excited to learn from you and get to know you as well. And so we don't just quantum leap financially. So thank you for having me here today.
Yeah, thank you for being here, making time for this. I appreciate that. Absolutely. Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for listening or watching this show, and go check out Lisa, and we'll see you on the next, or maybe you'll tune in to the next episode.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning into the Unreasonable Life podcast. I hope that today's episode has inspired you to dream bigger, act bolder, and step into your own version of an unreasonable dream life. If you loved what you heard today, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who's ready to take their next bold leap. And I'd love to hear your thoughts and connect with you. You can follow me on Instagram and share your biggest takeaways from today's episode. And remember, the life that you want isn't unreachable. It's just unreasonable. Until next time, keep challenging the status quo, and I'll see you on the next episode of the Unreasonable Life podcast.